Welcome to Sporting News Audio. My name is David Arnott. I'm sitting here with Sporting News baseball editor Chris Bahr, and we've got a couple of really interesting series coming up. The Dodgers are going to be playing against the Padres, a test for the Padres, who are upstarts in the National League West, and then the Rays are playing against the Yankees. That should be a test for them, seeing as the Yankees have pretty firmly established themselves as the best team in the American League, in all of baseball, dare I say, in this early going. Let's start with that Rays-Yankees series, Chris. The Rays have a 2.69 team ERA right now, as of this recording. Can that hold up?
Definitely it can. Maybe not that great, but I think their rotation and their bullpen is definitely for real. A lot of good young arms there. David Price is an example. Very young, but also very experienced. He pitched in the playoffs 2 years ago. Shields, Garza, both, I guess you can call them veterans, even though they're very young. They still got electric arms. And then Neiman and Wade Davis, two, basically rookies. Neiman was a rookie last year, Davis this year. Both have been outstanding. And the difference between this year and last year is, of course, the closer. Last year they didn't really have a closer. They had a couple of guys get hurt with Percival and Isringhausen. And now they've got Soriano. So maybe the biggest issue last year was the lack of a ninth inning guy, and they've got that now. So I think this staff is for real.
They've definitely solved that problem, but the new problem, as it were, that's coming up is their DH slot. Offense hasn't been that much of an issue for them, but they were getting absolutely nothing out of DH with first Pat Burrell, and then they started working Willie Ibar in there. Burrell's been cut loose. Hank Blaylock has been brought up. How do you see Blaylock and Ibar handling the DH spot from here through the rest of the season?
I think unless Blaylock gets hot, you're going to see those two guys and maybe a couple others mixed in eventually. They'll have Matt Joyce back from an injury eventually, and he might be a guy they mix in there. But unless Blaylock proves he can hit righties and lefties and stay hot, for a full season, I think you're going to see a bit of a rotation there. But that can't be worse than what they were getting from Burrell the past couple of years. Like you said, they've had very little trouble scoring. They're second in the AL in runs per game, yet they're 10th in the AL in homers. So they're doing something right, and I don't think they need homers from that spot necessarily to be successful. So whatever they get, is better than Burrell.
As of now, do you think that there's a good reason to believe that they can surpass the Yankees by the end of the season?
I think so. The Rays, as good as they are right now with the record, they have several players who haven't really started hitting yet. Carlos Pena's in a big slump. B.J. Upton, has kind of been slow all season. There's a couple other guys that just, aren't hitting right now, and once they get going, you put that with the pitching, and we're already seeing with the Yankees a lot of injury problems, Posada's banged up, Nick Swisher's banged up, Nick Johnson's on the DL, Curtis Granderson's on the DL. Little things like that can add up, and that the Yankees aren't a young team in many ways. They've got a lot of veterans, and a couple more injuries strike them, and Tampa Bay looks even stronger.
Yeah, among those top three AL East teams, just 2 or 3 games losing out due to those injuries, that can make a big difference in the end. Let's go over to that National League matchup we talked about. The Padres, they're getting a big test against the Dodgers coming up. Dodgers being one of those teams that's been pretty good under Ned Colletti the past few years. They're not doing quite as well as they would probably hope to have done. They just lost Andre Ethier. Seems like it's a time to strike for the Padres and steal some wins here. They've been really good pitching also this year, with Kevin Correa is probably the only pitcher on their staff out of the 16 they've used this season that has struggled. Are guys like Clayton Richard and Matt Latos for real?
I'd like to say yes, but I'm not sure. But with a lot of these arms, Wade LeBlanc is another one. You're seeing them, first and second year guys who are starting very strong, but there's just not a track record there for success, and it might be a little bit unrealistic to expect these younger guys to carry this for an entire season. And that's where a guy like Heath Bell comes in, a veteran. I know he's in the bullpen, but as a veteran arm, he can kind of take these guys under his wing. And the same with John Garland, who's been just an amazing example of a guy getting off to a great start after being basically a 500 pitcher his whole career. And maybe it's Petco Park, and maybe it's just John Garland, but as long as he's hot and he's a veteran, influence here, maybe he can help the young guys. But I still think over the full season you're going to see some of these guys start to struggle.
Given Garland's track record the past few years, where I'd say he was mediocre at best, he strikes me as the type of guy that they would be looking to trade at the deadline, maybe even sooner than that, for some offensive help to help around Adrian Gonzalez. Do you see them perhaps going down that road? Is it too early to think about it? Should they even bother trying to add offense given their ballpark and what they're doing in their division right now?
It'll be interesting to see because, all we've heard all season that they're going to be sellers. They're going to sell Garland. They're going to sell Heath Bell. They're going to sell Adrian Gonzalez. But the longer they stay in this, the more that they have to, look the other direction and say, should we be buying? And they need more offense, but it's a case, again, of, with Petco Park, you're just not going to take a guy and put him in there and expect to get 30 homers out of him. And one name has been thrown out there as Jermaine Dye, but the way that team is built now, it's a younger team, a very athletic team, a very good defensive team. They're third in the NL, fifth in the majors in fielding percentage. So you add a guy like Jermaine Dye, who's an older guy, not as athletic anymore, not a good defensive player. For maybe 20 homers, 15, 20 homers, you sacrifice a lot of defense. So unless there's a good fit there, I think what you see is what you get with their offense right now.
Chris Bahr, thank you for joining us in Sporting News Audio.
All right, thanks.